think you can spare some.
He was hungry before that.
These are the guys you were waiting for.
All right, everybody hear me? We're good?
Yeah.
All right. So first off, I want to say thank you for everybody that showed up. I appreciate it. You know, so give yourselves a hand. Y'all give a crap. That's good. That's the point of this. There's a lot to say about the Second Amendment, and I think we spend a lot of time telling each other that all the time, and I think we need to spend more time telling other people in a way that doesn't piss people off. And that's also the point of this, is to talk to other people, whoever they may be, and encourage us to step outside a little bit and talk to other people and try not to be the quote-unquote gun nuts that everybody tries to portray us as, because we aren't. We're just regular normal people that go to work and take care of our families and do all that same stuff that we always do. We just happen to care about our right to keep and bear arms as protected by the Second Amendment, basically. And one of the things I want to talk about here today, and hopefully we'll get some more people in and we'll see how it goes, is the Second Amendment guarantees a human right that we have to protect ourselves, that we've always had since the beginning of time. There's no document that defines that. We've always been able to defend ourselves against whatever it is. Somebody trying to break into your house, a government, whatever, it doesn't matter. That's what this is about. And because of that, it's for everybody. It's not partisan. It doesn't matter who you vote for, who you like, who you dislike. It doesn't matter you're conservative or liberal or libertarian or Republican or Democrat, right, left, doesn't matter. It's for you. And we want to be able to share that message with people and talk to people in a civil way about that, whatever that is for you. Whatever way you feel you can best have a conversation with somebody, whether it's somebody walking up the street, a friend, a family member, whatever it is, that you can just open up a dialogue and say, you know, hey, stop screaming at me for a minute, please, because I want a gun. And let me explain to you why. And why it's not just about me, it's about you. And that's kind of what this is about. There really was no plan when I put this together 2 weeks ago. It honestly just kind of fell together. So I really do appreciate you guys coming out and taking the time on a nice, humid Sunday morning when you could probably be doing a whole lot of other things. And I know a lot of people are. Sorry. It's a little bit strange sometimes when you decide you want to go ahead and do something that you've never done before. And I think a lot of us have never done stuff like this before. I mean, I know some of us came out back in 2013 and marched and did that kind of stuff, but there was a lot more of an organizational feel and less grassroots movement. There was bigger people and organizations and things behind it. And so it's kind of strange to be here right now by myself, standing up here with some speakers and microphones, so please forgive me for that. But I think we really do need to keep in mind that this is something that we have to fight constantly, because there's all this misinformation out there when it comes to not just guns themselves. And we can all talk about the statistics and gun crime and all that stuff that we're also against, by the way. And a lot of times people who are anti-gun, whether it be individuals or it be people in the media or whatever, they like to portray people who own guns as people that like to see people get shot and killed and that they don't care about anybody, and that's just not true. We care just as much as everybody else. But we also realize that there's something very valid and important about being able to protect yourself against whatever you might need to protect yourself against, whatever that may be. You know, a lot of times they always throw the argument, well, the government's never going to be corrupt. What are you worried about? What are you concerned with? And I'd like to just, in a civil way, ask all those people that now don't like who's president, how do they feel about it now? And it's not to be sarcastic, but hopefully it's situations like this that will get people to understand that it does matter to everybody. It doesn't matter who you are. I know most of us here are probably more right-leaning or libertarian or conservative or anything like that, but that shouldn't be the dividing line when it comes to your ability to defend yourself from whatever it may be. And that's one of the big messages I wanted to push with this. And I wanted to be a little bit more proactive and less reactive, because a lot of times when stuff happens and people start to push anti-gun bills and laws and whatever else, a lot of times we get all pissed off and we start screaming and yelling, and then we start to kind of look like the people that they try to portray us as. And it's a lot more effective if you can have just a calm, civil conversation with somebody. And so that's what we're trying to do here. Now, I had some people that were supposed to come and speak today that have not shown up yet, and hopefully they will. So I could sit here and ramble on for a while, but I wanted to see if maybe somebody else might want to come up here and say something.
Need to hear from the short girl. I'm Alice Tripp. Some of you like me, some of you don't like me. I've been lobbying for Texas State Rifle Association for 20 years, 10 legislative sessions, and I never found a gun I didn't like. I never found a gun bill I wouldn't throw my mother under a bus to pass. I don't sell anybody out short, and there is no compromise ever unless you're going to lose. And I'm an increment person. In 2007, we passed a bill that we call car carry. It was quite innovative. It got clouded by Castle Doctrine. Believe me, it had nothing to do with Castle Doctrine. It got clouded by Empowered Emergency Powers Act. All in that same session, 2007. What it allows you to do is to carry a handgun in your car with no license and no age. And 10 years later, the world has not caved in. So we've got statistics on why all of that should be okay. So that was carried in the Senate by a Democrat. It was passed, finally passed, in the Senate by a Democrat. The Senate voted to roll the clock back 2 hours. I was watching another bill on the House. I thought my pretty bill was gone. And the senator that passed it called me on my way home and said, "Alice," he's Hispanic, "Alice, we got it done." And I said, "What?" He said, "Well, the Senate can vote to roll the clock back." So I've had help from the ACLU, which is very cool. I've had help from the Pink Pistols, which is very cool. The license to carry was passed by a Democratic majority. Very cool. I'll work with anybody, everybody. So that's who we are. There is not one path to making and protecting our rights. You can realize really quickly if somebody's harming your rights. It's like a tar baby. Somebody brings out the picture and goes, "What about Home Depot?" So that's the kind of stuff we're trying not to do. We're trying not to alienate anybody. I'm not running for political office either, you'll be glad to know. I'm not running for political office. I didn't do this so I could. Yada, yada, yada. I'm conservative. I'm not libertarian. I may be a Democrat kind of sort of sometimes, but I grew up in Texas and we all were. So, but I'm a gunitarian. Right? So when you think about this stuff, trust me, if there was just one person we could get rid of, or 2, or 6, but that ain't gonna happen. And we've got to ultimately work with who's elected. The vice chairman of one of the House committees that hears all our bills is a Democrat from Eagle Pass. I mean, we're talking Democrat. He has Mossberg in his district. He approached us after the committee hearing. After the committee hearing, the representative approached us and he said, I got Mossberg. There's a shotgun. Somebody tell me the shotgun. Shockwave. Mossberg Shockwave 590. 2 states in this country where they couldn't be purchased. And it was because of our language, our definition for a short barrel. ATF didn't have a problem with it, but the state of Texas, their language did. We were working on, the NRA lobbyists and I were working on a bill to allow suppressors to move if and when suppressors come out at NFA, you all understand, if, heaven forbid, the Hearing Protection Act. So we had to clean up state law. So the vice chairman of this committee from Eagle Pass with Mossberg in his district said, here's the language to fix Texas law so that Texans can buy this Mossberg shotgun. Would you have gone to him? No. He's a Democrat. He came to us. And a Republican put the amendment on our pretty suppressor bill in the Senate, and then our House friend, for the moment, protected that amendment from other Democrats in the House floor. God, that's sneaky. Isn't that great? But you've got friends all over the place. And let's first all be friends to each other, but second of all, don't presume that Democrats aren't your friends. Everybody's your friend till they're not. So thank you, and I'm glad you're here, and I hope there are other speakers so that Matt gets a break. Thank you, Matt.
Well, thank you. So, I don't know how many people we have out here that might not necessarily be gun people. I don't know. I know we got a few people here and there. Like I said, the event was to try and get people to understand that this isn't just about being a gun nut or a conservative. The Second Amendment, I think, is been politicized and is misunderstood in ways all over the country. And there are people that have their reasons, and I think a lot of people probably who don't necessarily like guns or maybe against the Second Amendment or anything like that probably have really good intentions. They probably really think that if we just did away with a bunch of stuff, that it would make life better. But we've seen time and time again that that doesn't happen. You can look at examples all throughout history. Every time that people are disarmed, tyranny just kind of starts to rise up. Sometimes it happens immediately, sometimes it happens slowly. We see things like that in our own country. You look at violence in Chicago, you look at violence in places where there's higher gun restrictions, whether it be in California or New York or wherever. You know, crime rates go up. Now, is that necessarily because, well, we took guns away? Well, no, there's a lot of things that are involved in that. I mean, there are a lot of factors. But when you look at similar statistics in other parts of the country where you have more guns, crime is less. You know, we had a big experiment back in the 1990s to the early 2000s called the assault weapons ban. For 10 years we had an assault weapons ban, and we told everybody that these scary guns, and not just the guns themselves, but these aspects of certain guns that are scary. Because if it has a pistol grip, it's evil. If it has a magazine that holds more than 10 rounds, it's evil. If it has a muzzle device, somehow that makes it more evil. And we took all these things away for 10 years. Study after study after study showed no effect on crime. Columbine happened during this period of time. We get the assault weapons ban lifted in 2005. Crime, to this day, gun violence in this country has continued to go down since 2005. So guns aren't a problem. And so we need to move the conversation past the guns and talk about what being able to own a gun freely, to do with what you will, primarily, probably having fun at the gun range, or you keep it in your purse or in your counter or whatever, just in case you ever need it. It's not about that. It's about what it means to be able to defend yourself from anything. It's about your right to to individual freedom and liberty. And it goes beyond just the idea that I should have the right to own a gun. A lot of you guys here know me. I am not hardline conservative or anything at all. I'm much more libertarian. I'm much more of a you do you type of person, okay? And I think this is another aspect of that. The fact that we should have the freedoms to do all these different things. And I'm perfectly in line with having the freedoms to do what you want, with who you want, when you want, how you want, as long as you don't interfere with anybody else's rights. Okay? We all should have ultimate individual freedom and liberty. And we should have people that demand that and a government that makes sure that that happens. And this is kind of the first step, right? This is one of the things we do. We get together, we talk about stuff like this, and we try to become of one mind, I guess, more or less. You know, we try to get together and we try to encourage each other to go out and make more, get together with more people outside of this. We all get together here, and like I said, a lot of us are like-minded when it comes to guns specifically, when it comes to the Second Amendment, when it comes to individual freedom and liberty. And we need to take that and pass it on to people who might not understand, who might just, because of the fact that a person owns a gun, they automatically assume they know you and they know your intentions and they know what you want and they know you're a gun nut and they think that you run around dressed up in camo with a boonie hat and an AR-15 all the time or whatever it may be. And not that there aren't people that do that, and that's their right to do that. But those people don't do that all the time. Then they go out to dinner and they take care of their family and they go to work and they do all that other stuff too, just like everybody else. You know, there are 350 million guns roughly in the country right now. There are close to 100 million gun owners. Almost none of those guns woke up this morning and hurt anybody. Almost none of those gun owners woke up this morning and hurt anybody. And that's because most of us are just regular people, and that's what I want people to understand. And then I want to push that onto, here's why it's important to you as well. So I may be kind of repeating myself, I apologize, but that is a really strong message that I want to push today, because I want we as gun owners to be more inclusive. I know people who tend to be on the left like to use that word inclusive a lot, but I think it fits in this case, because I do think that there have been times where when we do feel we're under attack for our rights, we become very much not inclusive. We don't try to have those conversations. We just try to say no, 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 no. And I firmly believe in shall not be infringed, just like everybody else here. But sometimes we need to just take a little bit of a step back and be willing to have a conversation with somebody and explain things to them instead of just putting up a wall and saying no. And that's what I hope that everybody kind of walks away with, at least a little bit. I'd like to see if I can get somebody else to come up here, if he has a moment, to say a few words. This is Michael. A lot of you know him.
All right, my name is Michael Cargill. I'm the owner of Central Texas Gun Works, which is a gun store here in Austin, Texas. Also the host of a radio show called Come and Talk It, where we talk all things firearms. So you guys heard about the Mossberg Shockwave from Alice Tripp there, huh? Well, I actually had the opportunity to be the person to actually bring that Mossberg Shockwave into the Texas State Capitol. And by the way, it was actually illegal for me to do that. So since at the time that it was an illegal weapon. I want to talk to you today about some different things that we actually need to get fixed here at the Texas State Capitol. There are a lot of things we need to adjust. We have a lot of things that are wrong with our laws. If you take a look at, for example, 4602, which says that you can actually have a handgun in Texas and you don't need a license for it. It tells you where you can actually have that handgun. Well, there are a lot of things about that law. If you look at 46.15, non-applicability, which we need to do some adjustments to. Because if you look at 4602, and let me run you through it real quick. 4602 says that you can actually have a handgun in Texas without a license, and it tells you where you can actually have that handgun. It says you can have it at home, to and from your home, your vehicle, inside your vehicle, so premise under your control, your place of business, a watercraft, a boat, a travel trailer, camper trailer, truck camper, motorhome, and a horse trailer with living quarters. So that's where it says you can actually have a handgun in Texas, you don't need a license for it. Well, then it also talks about clubs. Before that, it talked about illegal knives prior to September 1st, 2017. But we know what happened there, and I'm actually disappointed right now that I don't see a sword right now. I'm actually pretty pissed off. What is wrong with you people? Where's my sword? Swords, you know, we can actually have illegal knives right now. So you guys are seriously letting me down. So I expect the next time we have an event like this, I expect to see some swords. I expect to see some really long knives. Just as long as you can get them. All right, so all that stuff there is in 4602. Well, if you look at 46.15, non-applicability, what it says is that it says, hey, you're exempt from 4602 if, number one, you're traveling. Well, the Texas legislature actually removed certain things about traveling back in September the 1st, 2007. They said, hey, well, you know what? Everyone's presumed to be traveling. So what does that mean? Does that mean right now that I can actually be in my vehicle without a license and actually carry a handgun, either openly or concealed, because I'm exempt from 4602? Those are some questions we need to get answered by our Texas legislature, because those are some issues that are in the law, some places that things were done over here but weren't done over here. So, and just think about that a little later on at night, a little after this, because once you get your license, you're held to a much higher standard. You understand that? You're held to a much higher standard, because this year the Texas legislature said that, hey, if you have a handgun license or license to carry a handgun, in order for you to openly carry or conceal carry your handgun, well, and to walk around with, you have to have a handgun license, right? Well, but to openly carry that handgun needs to be in a holster that fits on your belt or a shoulder holster. So if I don't have a license and I have a handgun in my vehicle, 46.15 says I'm exempt from 4602, where if I'm exempt from 4602 and I don't have a license, that means I can openly carry my handgun in my vehicle and it doesn't have to be in a holster. But if I'm a license holder, 46.035 says, hey, it has to be in a holster that fits my belt or a shoulder holster. Just want you to let that sink in. Anyone follow me at all? Understand what I'm saying? There's some things we need to get addressed and take a look at in the Texas Penal Code. And unfortunately, I get a chance to sit and lay on that book that I call the Bible, you know, and understand all that good kind of stuff. Those are things that we talk about on our radio show, things that we need to get fixed. Another thing that we were able to get fixed, just like Alice said, was the issue of, you know, Mossberg. You know, that was a really weird one, no one caught. There's another thing that we need to get fixed. What about being around a school activity? If there's a school activity taking place, let's say there's a field trip right here in this building. Let's say today there's a school field trip here, school-sponsored activity. Well, that means technically, because it's a school-sponsored activity, that means that we're not supposed to have any handguns. Yeah, inside the Capitol. So, I mean, let's say, and this happened actually probably about a year, almost 2 years ago. I was at the Texas State Capitol here inside the building on the Senate floor, testifying before a Senate committee. I said, inside this room here, there are a bunch of senators in here right now, and they all have handguns on them. A bunch of House members in this building right now, and they all have handguns on them. Well, there are a bunch of license holders in this building right now, and they all have handguns on them. Well, guess what? Downstairs, there are 3 school field trips in this building, because we're actually a little higher up. So that means that everyone that's carrying a gun in that building, because they're school field trips, are unlawfully carrying a weapon. That's a felony under 4603. That's something we need to get fixed, because guess what? You do know that the Houston Zoo, are you hearing me right now? The Houston Zoo, or should I call it the Houston, never mind, it's too soon. So the Houston Zoo, they use that. And the Houston Zoo says, guess what? Just because there are school field trips here every single day, you as license holders cannot carry. Do you understand that? And that's something we need to get fixed, because there are a lot of different places that use that. If it's a government entity, you own that. That is owned by the people. You own that. Then you should be able to carry there. There's no reason why you should not be able to. And we need to get them to fix the law. There's little things about school activities that need to get fixed. There are a bunch of kids here right now. There's no reason why good guys should not be here to carry. Am I right? All right. Who's going to protect the babies? I had State Representative Hinojosa grabbed me the other week, and she said, you know, Michael, I'd like to talk to you about protecting the children. And can you come and sit with me and help me, you know, come up with some, you know, safety measures when it comes to protecting the kids. I said, well, State Representative Hinojosa, I believe in protecting the babies. That's why I carry a gun. All right, so, you know, those are just some little things that we actually need to get fixed along the major stuff. Constitutional carry. Does anyone want constitutional carry to pass in the state? Yeah. It's pretty sad that we have a state of Vermont of all places. You know, anyone can go to Vermont, you can carry a firearm openly or concealed, and you don't need a license for it. But here in the state of Texas, the Lone Star State. Texas, the Lone Star State. People think that we're so pro-gun. We're really not that pro-gun. We're actually the bottom 50 of the United States when it comes to being a pro-Second Amendment state. We're not in the top 10. We're not even the top 20 when you look at all the different laws and you break it down. Do you not understand that? We have some work we need to do here in the state of Texas. We got to get it done, but we can't get it done unless you guys, you've got to show up. Come January 2019, we're going to need your help because they're tired of seeing the same old faces year after year. Need your help to show up, knock on these doors, be polite and let them know that these are some of the things that we're interested in and we need to get them fixed and we need to get them changed. Because that's what it's all about. Bump stocks. What in the world is this country coming to? You're banning a part. You're talking about banning a type of way of shooting. Are we serious right now? Massachusetts just passed bump stocks. They just banned bump stocks. Really? So does that mean when I go to Massachusetts and I go to the gun range, I hold my gun down here and I just pull that trigger really fast because I got a fast finger, you know what I'm saying? And I pull that trigger really fast, that means that I'm committing a crime in Massachusetts. Or if I use a rubber band, or if I use a belt loop. Really? Let's get it together. We have got to do something about these gun laws that they're trying to impose on us. This is ridiculous. We're talking about a part, a bump stock. What about an echo trigger? What about a binary trigger? There are a lot of different ways that you can do the same thing by using something totally different. So you're talking about banning a type of way of shooting. That's all you're talking about doing. We need to stop that. This needs to stop at the federal level. This needs to stop at the state level as well. I am in support of concealed carry reciprocity. Let me switch gears again. I am in support of concealed carry reciprocity because I feel that we should be able to carry in every single state. If I'm licensed as recognized in Texas, that license should be recognized in every other state, just like my driver's license. Because driving is a privilege, but the Second Amendment, that is a right. That's why it's called the Bill of Rights and not the Bill of Needs. Let them know Michael Cargill told you that. And then also, I'm in support of the concealed carry, not the concealed carry reciprocity, in support of the suppressor bill. We need to get that passed as well. We've got to contact our U.S. Senator. We have two of them. John Cornyn, Senator Ted Cruz. Got to contact them, let them know that you want the suppressor bill to pass. We have a very short time to get this done. A very short time. Because if that House or our U.S. Senate actually flips and goes to the other side, which what happens when one group is in control of the White House, that means that group will lose the Senate or the House of Representatives. That's how it happens. So if we do not get some of these things passed, like the suppressor bill passed, or what we're calling it now, what is it called? Thank you, SHARE Act. If we don't get the SHARE Act passed, we can lump it all together, then we're going to lose that come next election, because I guarantee you that we're going to lose one of those houses. We're going to lose either the House or the Senate, because that's how it happens. That's what happens. And if it doesn't get done right now, there's no reason. We have a Republican-controlled White House. We have a Republican-controlled Senate. We have a Republican-controlled House of Representatives. There's no reason why we cannot get a pro-gun bill passed in this country. So put their feet to the fire and let them know that we need to get this stuff done. We need to get it done now. There's no time for it. It needs to get done this year, 2017. We're not going to wait any longer. We're not going to comply with anyone that wants to ban bump stops. We're not going to comply with any anti-gun bills. We're not going to comply. We're not going to listen. It's not going to happen. Not on my watch. For my cold dead hands, as always, more guns equals less crime. Where'd he go?
Okay, sorry about that. Got caught up in an interview. Thank you. Appreciate it. So where were we? I think I have somebody else that wants to come up here real quick and speak from a position of, he's been somebody that has lived in a place where they aren't particularly gun friendly. And he has some advice on ways to talk to people that might actually accomplish something other than just people screaming at each other, which is always the best way to handle things, because when you just end up screaming at each other, well, you know how it goes. So, would you like to come up here for a second?
Morning. Morning. My name's John Bolgiano. I'm brand new to Texas. I escaped a few months ago from the People's Democratic Republic of Maryland. And I came here today with the goal of learning about the 2A fight here in Texas. And it occurred to me, I had not planned to speak at all today, so please excuse me if I ramble a bit. But I think I might have a few suggestions for talking to the other side. Because God knows in Maryland, there's plenty of the other side. I've heard some folks here today say, we're against gun crime, we're against gun violence. Well, I've got a whole safe full of guns and none of them have ever been violent. None of them have ever committed a crime. So we've got to take the words the other side and the media is pushing about gun crime and gun violence. And when you're talking to them, it's criminal violence. It's domestic abuse violence. It's terroristic violence. The guns are not the problem. That has got to be our central message. And the word gun itself, we're comfortable with that. That's what we're carrying on our hips are our guns. It scares them. It's a boogeyman. Talk about firearms. That's a good word. It's multisyllabic. They have trouble with that. But the idea is try to reach inside the little minds and see what is scaring them, and then use words which will soothe them and bring them into a safe space where the guns are. I have seen so much misinformation passed along in the Maryland legislature and just outright hatred of people who enjoy firearms and shooting sports and want to protect their family. To me, those people aren't anti-gun. They're anti-rights. So when you're talking with them, focus on the rights, because self-defense is a civil right, and we have to fight for it everywhere. In Maryland, where we've got our backs against the wall, and down here in Texas, where we're taking the first steps towards real liberty. Thank y'all.
All right. Barring anybody else that might want to speak. I'm probably going to repeat myself a lot, and that's because I do think the message is important. I do think it's imperative to our gun rights and our ability to achieve individual freedom and liberty as much as we possibly can, which I think we should all be able to agree on. It hinges on being able to come together when it comes to fighting for what is a human right, the right to defend yourself. I think we don't have too many complaints from either side when it comes to freedom of speech. We do get some back and forth on freedom of religion here and there, depending on who you're talking about and who you're talking to. But I think we need to really focus on trying to view, especially now, with the political climate being what it is, where we have people who traditionally, more or less, come from the side of the political arena that would usually be anti-gun, now actually legitimately having some concern that they don't like their government in a very real way, and being concerned of what their government might do to them. I think it's an opportunity to put it out there and say, can we come together on something for once? We don't have to agree on everything, because we're not. I guarantee you everybody here disagrees with everybody else on at least one thing, probably 20 things. All right? That's just the nature of being human. But when it comes to something that I believe, and I think most of us here believe, is as important as your ability to be able to defend yourself, I think we should be able to just say, hey, this is one issue that we don't have to involve anything else in. You know, far too much in politics, and it's done this way on purpose, but far too often in politics, politicians and people, and whether it's your DNC or your RNC or whoever it is that's pushing an agenda, they say, hey, we believe in these couple of things that we know you believe in. Now come to our side and then check all these other boxes. And I think that's how a lot of people end up being, quote unquote, anti-gun. They find themselves maybe agreeing more or less with things on that side of the aisle, and they feel that they just have to be anti-gun, and they don't. They don't. In the last few years, I've been doing YouTube and podcasts and all this kind of other stuff. I've gotten to meet so many people that I didn't even know existed before. People that are actually liberal and appreciate guns. Now, they're few and far between, unfortunately, but they understand that, and so I know that those conversations can be had. I know that we can talk to people in a civil way. And yes, there is times when you do have to kind of step up and get a little loud. And there is times when maybe being civil isn't the best option. Sometimes you got to get a little loud and hold up a sign and maybe try and talk over somebody. And it's not to say that that's not acceptable. We live in a country that allows that to be a way that we can help make a change in things. When we see something that we feel violates our rights, we stand up and we say no. And a lot of times we as gun owners, we stand up and say, shall not be infringed, period. And there's definitely time for that. And there's definitely a time and a place for that. But there's also a time and a place to do the exact opposite, which is just to say, let's talk about it without yelling at each other. And that's hopefully what we'll be able to do. This rally here, like I said, was very much last minute and unplanned. And a takeaway from this, for me, would be to get to a point to where we can come out and do this far more often, and come out and be proactive and be inclusive and talk to people about gun rights, and talk to people about the Second Amendment and their human right to defend themselves, and talk about why it matters to them no matter who they voted for. I would love to see more people be able to realize this is something that we can do. And I think gun owners in general, I'm generalizing here, all right? So forgive me. But you know, we don't tend to be the ones that get that mad until finally it's that last straw, right? And then we just all lose it. We just start screaming and yelling. But for the most part, we sit back and we kind of go, it's fine. The NRA will take care of it, or the GOA will take care of it, or it's never going to pass, or oh look, Trump's president now, so there's nothing. I don't have to worry about anything. And nothing could be further from the truth. We know as gun rights people that this one right that we care a lot about, it's always under attack somewhere. There's some state right now that's trying to pass some bill somewhere, whether it's New York or Maryland or California or whatever, Oregon, Washington, somewhere the gun rights are under attack. We know there's several bills going through Congress, something's going on. So we don't have to just wait till one of those gets far enough that we just scream and yell. We can be proactive, and we can gather together in a peaceful way and have civil conversations, and that's what this is about. I guess nobody else wants to speak. I see. That's all right. I honestly could keep saying the same thing over and over again, or we could start preaching to the choir. You know, we could start talking about all the different gun laws, and we could go over all the FBI crime statistics and how they prove without a doubt that more guns don't equal more crime. But I think most of us know that. Maybe those are the types of things you can talk to other people about instead of talking to each other about it. We spend a lot of time, I don't know, I certainly do, with the podcast and with the YouTube channel and everything else, and talking to a lot of you guys out here. And we spend a lot of time preaching to the choir and riling each other up and getting mad and getting angry about somebody doing something. You know, when's the last time, and I'm guilty of this too, but when's the last time we just had a conversation with somebody that we work with that we don't even know if they're gun friendly or not? Maybe they are, maybe they're not. You know, when's the last time we had a conversation with that neighbor or whatever who probably gives you weird looks when you're going to the range and you take your AR in and out from the car? You know, when's the last time we had those conversations? Maybe that's what we should work towards. Now, that's, again, not to say that there aren't times that we do a bunch of other stuff as well and get loud and get angry and march and protest and whatever else, right? So there's a time and a place for that. But we need to include being inclusive along with all those other things. I'm going to say that barring anybody else that wants to come up and speak, I would encourage everybody now to get to know each other. We might have some people showing up at some point. We're still going to have the equipment up. Yeah, of course, of course.
How many have never been to the Capitol before? I want you to know that there's a restaurant in the Capitol, and it's open. It opened at 11. You go into the main elevators and you push the button that says E2. That stands for the second floor of the extension, not east. Not east. E1, not E2. E2's below it. E1, there's a gift shop and there's a restaurant, and you can go do that. Also, there are free tours. There's more history. Our Capitol is taller than the U.S. Capitol. And when you show your license to carry, you have a special line in there. Don't go through the metal detectors. It won't be pretty. Get your license out, your license to carry, and go through that. DPS swipes it. They don't want to see it. They don't want to touch it. I use it during sessions so I don't stand behind the kids with chicken pox. So, unless, if this breaks up, find each other down in the grill where you can sit and chat and have something to drink and visit your building. Get to know the Capitol. The Senate side is everything on that side. Everything. They're real hoity-toity. The House side is everything on the west side. So, I just thought you might want to know you can eat here and visit here.
All right, so one other thing here real quick, I want to say thank you to DPS for being really cool today. I called them 2 weeks ago and told them there was going to be a bunch of people with guns at the Capitol. Don't panic. And they've been ridiculously helpful and been very nice, so thank you all. I don't know if they're listening. Maybe they are, maybe they're not. They were very friendly when we first got here, so that's very, very cool, because we all know sometimes people can get a little nervous when people have guns. So thank you guys for that. Like I said, thank you guys for showing up. I would encourage everybody to get together and talk and exchange numbers and information. This is a good group of people from all over Texas that came out because they cared, and that's awesome that you care. And that means more than anything that some organization pushed you into and said, well, you're a member, come here. It's great when they can do that, but when it's legitimately just people that said, I'm just going to go to this because some idiot made a YouTube video, that's awesome, because y'all care that much. So thank you. Pat yourselves on the back, because y'all all deserve it. I literally just made a 5-minute YouTube video and didn't do anything. So every one of y'all came from all over the state to just come be a part of something cool that you believe in, and that's amazing. So I think that's going to be it for today. There's just not much else to say. I just don't have enough people that were able to come speak today, so I apologize for that. Maybe next time, and I do want there to be a next time. The Facebook page will stay up. It was a Facebook page I created and designed to be something that further events could be organized on. There's no date on it. So this is something that, as I was telling them when I was being interviewed, I'd love to see us be proactive more often and come together and do this. You know, take a weekend off every 6 months and come to Austin, and we can all, like some of us did last night, go have a beer and then come out the next morning and just try to be good examples of gun owners. I think everybody here is doing a fantastic job just being a good example of a gun owner and a good example of a human being, and that's basically what this was all about. So if anybody out there has any questions about anything, guns, gun rights, anything like that, I don't know how many people here might just be, you know, generally people who aren't gun people. I don't know. And if you got questions about something, that's what this is about, is just coming out and saying, hey, we're here. We want to talk. We want to be civil. We want to tell you why we care and why we think it matters to you too. So other than that, I think we're going to be done today. So thank you guys. I appreciate it. Every one of you who showed up. There it is. Yeah. Bye.
So before we stop here, just for real quick, wanted to say I'd be remiss if we didn't give Matt here a hand, because he really put himself out here like nationwide, not just for Texas. And, I couldn't have pulled it off, I don't think. So not much of a public speaker, but this guy rocks. He really pulled something together I thought was really neat. So good job. Matt. Say hi to